you met Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. What happened?
I was on the Upper East Side, pouring rain, and a limo pulls up, and he said, "Come in, we'll have tea." I just wanted to call BS on him. So I went in, and then I asked him something that had occurred to no journalist to ask him. And one of the things he said was, for the next 6 months, people who knew Epstein could get my email. If Jeffrey Epstein wants to get in touch with you. I was just creeped out. No.
How does the island come to Epstein's possession?
He bought it. Where did he get his money? Jeffrey, for example, would be sitting at the head of the table with some 16-year-old girl sitting on it. And he reported that he'd go into the massage room after Jeffrey Epstein had been in there with young girls and find things like... Another one is so gross, I don't think I want to say it.
I'm all ears. Trump doesn't want something about the files coming out. That's your theory.
I think Trump is worried about...
Okay, we'll come back to that.
He comes in and removes the tapes.
I've got to ask about Epstein's death.
Let me just say, I think everyone agrees that...
I just wanted to get your sense of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Two things I do notice about her is, I say that on this program.
Is there any way out of this mess for Trump? Before you hear from Ann Coulter, I ask, if you want to support this show, all you have to do is press subscribe. If you do that, I can have more phenomenal guests like Ann exploring the issues you want to hear about that the mainstream media won't touch. And if you head over to winstonmarshall.co.uk, you will enjoy an extended conversation between me and Ann, where we move on from our discussion about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to a little bit of a look at what happened on Jan 6th and her experiences with Antifa and the Proud Boys. But without further ado, Ann Coulter. Ann, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with me. You need little introduction. I'm sure our audience will be very aware of your work. You've published at least 13 books. You have a wildly popular Substack called Unsafe that I've been enjoying digging through. And you've been a prominent media figure in America for a long time. And you've taken quite a lot of trouble for speaking out. It's been perilous for you, but you take it all on the chin and you're smiling constantly, no matter what you go through. But anyway, thank you for coming to speak with me.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So, of course, we could talk about many things, but what I'm particularly keen to get into is Jeffrey Epstein. The reason being, it's an issue...
I'm the world's leading expert.
Yes, exactly. But you are, because you've been covering this since at least 2005, when he was first charged. Am I right? In
2006, I may have said 2005 the other night. It's 2006 when it broke. The investigation was during 2005. That's why I get it confused in my head, I think.
Okay, so coming up to 20 years. But just for added context, of course, is that President Trump, who you've had an on-again, off-again public relationship with. First, I think you wrote a book praising him, and then you shortly after said he should be impeached. And we'll get into your current appraisal of his second administration. But they've had a bit of a nightmare. This is the same president who said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and still wouldn't lose voters. And this kind of flip-flopping on releasing the Epstein client list or the Epstein files, from releasing a sort of bizarre redacted version in February to whatever's going on now, and you're going to help me unpack it all. And he claims that he's the radical left that are constantly going after. But it seems to me that's the MAGA base.
It's totally the MAGA base going after him on this.
Yeah, right. Okay. We'll get into that. But I understand also that you met Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, the headline of this story would be, I'm a terrible judge of character, and yet I was totally creeped out by him. And this was long before the story broke, long. It was the day before the 9/11 attack. And I was leaving the next day. I had to write a column that night. I have 2 speeches I was flying off to the next day. Never made it. It's the morning of 9/11. And I had to go to an event down on Madison Avenue. I was on the Upper East Side, pouring rain, pre-Uber, couldn't get a cab. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to walk 50 blocks to get home in the pouring rain. And a limo pulls up and the guy leans out from the backseat. Cars are moving at like 5 miles per hour and says, "Hey, Ann Coulter, I'll give you a ride. We know people in common." He named someone that I do know. Not that good a recommendation, but I do know her. And I thought, what's going to happen? The car's going 5 miles per hour. I can always leap out. So I get in the back of the car. We go past.
That's a very brave thing to do, to get into a stranger's car, I'd say. Well, you were sufficiently convinced by whatever the name was.
I was sufficiently desperate to get home.
Right, okay.
Again, pre-Uber. And raining, no cabs.
Okay.
We went past his house, which you've surely seen, the largest private residence. It used to be a private girls' school in New York. And he said, I live here. And I said, you do not. And he said, come in, we'll have tea. Don't worry, my car will wait for you and take you the rest of the way, which wasn't that far anyway. And I just wanted to call BS on him. So I went in, and what was two things were striking about it. No books. And, pre-Uber, this was also pre-Kindle. That I've always noticed that in people's apartments when they have no books. And then I asked him something that occurred to no journalist to ask him, how did you make your money? And he was very flippant about it. I invest money for rich people. And it was, I don't know, he was just so goofy and frivolous. I've known a lot of very rich people, whether billionaires or centimillionaires, and you have, and they are not frivolous like this. In fact, the ones I know, I'm sure there are exceptions, are constantly thinking, working. They can be funny. They can do other stuff and have hobbies, but they're not frivolous like this guy was. And I thought it was creepy enough that as proof, I had his car drop me off, not at my apartment, but a few blocks away. So the doorman thought I was crazy. I walk in, oh, hi, I'm back. Wait for the car to go away. And then I walked. It was just a few more blocks from my place.
Because you didn't want the driver to get your address.
And then and I was right, for the next 6 months, people who knew Epstein could get my email from TV stations like Alan Dershowitz. And I started getting, all these emails from people like Dershowitz. Jeffrey Epstein wants to get in touch with you. Jeffrey Epstein wants to get in touch with you. And I was just creeped out. No, there's something weird about this guy. This is before any of this broke. I didn't see any young girls around. There was no Ghislaine Maxwell there. And then, years later, not that many years later, a few years later, I happened to be down in Palm Beach when the Jeffrey Epstein story broke. And I think it's kind of weird that the Miami Herald, good for her, that Julie Brown or something, won the Pulitzer Prize for her story in whatever year it was, 2017, 18, for the Jeffrey Epstein stuff she wrote about. I don't even respect the Palm Beach Post, but they had the full story in 2006. And I thought it was kind of a big story. I wrote about it not as specifically as this story. It was just how it was more on how biased the DA was in Palm Beach. He had just spent 4 years going after Rush Limbaugh for back pain pills, but he lets off this pederast. And I did get Bill O'Reilly on Fox News to do a segment on it, and it was fantastic, and he was great. And he ended the segment saying, and I'm going to stay on top of this story. I'm watching this DA. I'll get back to what the slap on the wrist was, but it was a Democrat DA.
Do you remember the name?
Barry Krishner.
Okay.
And every time I'd run into O'Reilly, and sometimes I'd do a show, but I just run into him in the halls at Fox and say, hey, when are you doing that follow-up story on Epstein? Oh, yeah, we're getting to it. I don't think he ever did a follow-up. But I was telling everybody in the media, this is kind of a big story, utterly, completely ignored by the mainstream media. And I think it's because Epstein was a huge Democratic donor. Barry Krishner, the DA, or as they call them, state attorney in West Palm Beach, huge Democratic donor. I knew the chief of police down there, and he told me, he may have told the press, that when they were first, what happened was some mothers from West Palm Beach came over and contacted the Palm Beach police and said her daughter suddenly had a lot of money, that her daughter and her friends' daughters were giving erotic massages and having sex with a rich man on the island of Palm Beach for money. And most of these girls were coming from broken families, if not runaways. They were troubled girls, but young enough for Jeffrey. So the Palm Beach police start looking into it, and it was a massive, brilliant investigation with Epstein having no idea what was going on. They had his trash picked up and directly delivered to the police station. They're going to through all of his trash. From one girl, they interviewed another girl, another girl, another girl. They ended up with like 17, I may have the number slightly wrong, but affidavits from the victims themselves and some of the slightly older enablers, the like 20-year-old girls who were the ones going around finding the young girls, and the young girls would ask their other girlfriends, hey, want to make some easy money? A lot of detail on how they were recruited, what was done to them. Then they also interviewed the butler at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, and he reported that.
On the topic of Epstein, let's take a quick look at how the media is reporting on Maxwell's request, urging the Supreme Court to hear her appeal using Ground News. Now, left-leaning Zeit Online ran the headline, Donald Trump denies visiting Epstein's island, even though the story itself is about Maxwell's request. We specifically partnered with Ground News because their app and website helped me and my team cut through media bias and get the full picture on any story, like this one. There are over 80 articles published on Maxwell's request for the Supreme Court to hear her appeal, and we can access every single one through Ground News, complete with source, context, and key breakdowns. Meanwhile, right-leaning The Blaze led with, relax, Trump is not going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Two very different narratives from the left and the right on the same story. Seeing all sides, regardless of political lean, is essential to making informed decisions and spotting bias. That's why Ground News blind spot feed, which highlights stories underreported by either side, is such a powerful tool. I genuinely believe in what Ground News is doing, and I encourage you to check it out by scanning the QR code or visiting ground.news/Winston. If you subscribe through my link, you'll get 40% off unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded. So, by supporting my sponsors, you're also supporting this show.
He'd go into the massage room after Jeffrey Epstein had been in there with young girls and find things like a large black dildo. Can I say that on this program?
And you can say whatever you want.
I'm just quoting an eyewitness report. They found in the trash things like, as for whether he knew they were 14. Oh my gosh, did he know they were 14? So there would be things like deliver flowers to, this 15-year-old girl after she performs in the school play. So-and-so is coming late today because she has soccer practice. So they had him totally dead to rights. So they don't tell Barry Krishner, the district attorney or state attorney, they don't tell him who it is yet. The investigation is ongoing. They got to keep it all under wraps, but they do tell him this is what we're investigating. And Krishner's really, really excited about this. This is fantastic. We're going to get one of these billionaires. I'm sure he's resentful of these rich people living on Palm Beach. Yes, keep going, get all this stuff. He's signing off on everything. He's getting the warrants for everything. And then they deliver it to him on a silver platter. He sees it Jeffrey Epstein and basically refuses to pursue anything. So
what year is that?
That it has to have been 2006.
After the first charge. Oh, no.
Those were the first charges.
Okay.
So it would have been, I think, 2006. Okay. The trial wouldn't take that long. So Barry Krishner does it before. He presents to the grand jury. He presents to the jury. It was all closed. We don't know what he said, but the only thing the jury came back with was, I think it was one count of soliciting prostitution. So soliciting, not doing it. And you're calling these 14-year-old girls prostitutes. And all he got was a slap on the wrist, not 1 day in jail, not registered as a sex offender. So the chief of police, Chief Ryder, was bullshit. He was furious about this. He's giving interviews. He's looking for some other way around this. Now, as you know, we have the state system and the federal system. Obviously, sex crimes in Palm Beach, one mansion in Palm Beach, that's a state case. It's not a federal case. I don't think they knew yet, or if they knew, they didn't have the details on the flights to Lolita Island, the transporting girls, New York, Palm
which would have made
Beach.
it federal.
But still, the U.S. attorney for, I don't know, I guess Miami, whoever the U.S. attorney is down there, this Alex Acosta, he sees the case and says, okay, we're going to take it. We'll make it a federal case. And he has reported, he's the one who's been, that the Miami Herald, the reason it came up in 2017 again, after the media ignoring it for a decade, was because Alex Acosta, the U.S. attorney, did not get a very rough deal. I mean, way better than what the DA got. He got Epstein registered as a sex offender, struck a plea bargain with him. I forget what the charges were, but it was a charge and it was a state charge. It's weird. The federal government got him to plead guilty to a state charge. So the state would impose the penalty, but here we have the plea bargain. And that's when Jeffrey Epstein was assigned. This is out of the U.S. attorney's hands. It goes back to, Barry Krishner. And he gets 13 months in a private wing of the West Palm Beach jail. I think it was 13 months. Maybe I'm confusing the two 13s. Yeah, and then 12 hours at home every day.
Yeah.
It wasn't punishment at all. So that's what the media finally got obsessed with. And why? Because the U.S. attorney was a Trump appointee. They finally had a way to tie this entirely Democratic story to Donald Trump and one of his cabinet appointees. So Acosta's now on the hot seat. He has to defend himself. And he says, our office has never come under so much pressure. Jeffrey Epstein had so many lawyers working for him, calling us, threatening us, following my attorneys home, following the assistant DAs. They would have, the black car following them. We know where you live. And one of the things he said was he was told, I don't know if it was by one of Epstein's attorneys, I think it was from someone in the State Department, called him and said, leave it alone. Epstein is intelligence.
Yes, that's been reported. There's not I haven't heard that, but or it's not official, right? It's not like we don't know for sure that was said, but it's been reported that was said.
And it should be investigatable. I mean, I'm guessing, even going back that far,
yes.
State Department records should be receivable.
Right.
Or discoverable. You could put Alex Acosta on the stand and ask him, among other things, who called you?
Yes.
Why can't we find that out? I mean, that's a pretty big bombshell. And what's being done to investigate it?
By that point, is that sort of the beginning of the quote-unquote conspiracies, that he's an intelligence asset, or is that already part of the discourse? Was that already part of...
Among people who were Epstein aficionados, and I would include myself and about 20 other people who were following this from 2006, I don't know if you'd call it a conspiracy theory, but we were already looking for who's funding Epstein, who was involved, what prominent men were involved. So whether it's a conspiracy theory or not, we were on this by 2006 or 7.
Right.
And then the rest of the world found out about the whole story in, I think it was 2017 that the Miami Herald wrote about it. And suddenly the media pick it up because they have this 6 degrees of separation way of connecting it to Donald Trump.
Right. Okay. But so you said earlier about Bill O'Reilly, sort of suggested that it was because he was Epstein was a Democrat backer that they didn't touch it. That's your conclusion? Is it? It's that it's quite as simple as that? Or I mean, if I were to get into conspiracy land, it might be because people were protecting Epstein and kind of were able to infiltrate Fox News or into the media and try and squash the story.
I don't think Fox was suppressing it. I think...
Where was Bill O'Reilly? Is it?
It was Bill O'Reilly. He was the only one, as far as I know, who covered it.
Is he at Fox?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, right, okay.
He does his own thing now. And God bless him for doing that one thing. I think it's more, I mean, I know I'm like this. Even a story that I consider very interesting, if the rest of the media, including the liberal media, shows absolutely no interest, it just kind of falls off the radar and you forget about it. And how many times can you keep writing the same column or making the same point? And I suspect that's why O'Reilly didn't cover it. I don't think he was covering up for it. I think there were just other stories and they were in the news and those are the ones you have to respond to right now. But it was very, I mean, I can't think of another reason they wouldn't have covered it back then, because most of the media would have the same reaction Barry Krishner did at first. Ha, 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 we're going to get this big billionaire, and he's expecting, like Biff from Greenwich, Connecticut, with his working on his golf handicap. And whoa, it wasn't that at all.
So when you learned that Epstein's got this ridiculous sentence where he can go home in a day, and he's got his own sort of wing of the prison, what do you make of that? What did you make of it at the time?
What I say, Democrat. They're covering for him.
Okay, I see. Okay, so we.
One other thing.
Yes.
Small point. Around this time, Barry Krishner, the DA, Hillary was running for president 2008. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the sentencing was in 2007, because around the time of the sentencing and the slap on the wrist, Barry Krishner was buying property in the Washington, D.C. area. So Matt Drudge and I speculated he was planning on getting a job in the Hillary Clinton administration.
Okay. So then you have this change around Trump's first administration. People start to care about it. But it seems to me, again, you're an aficionado, I'm not, but it wasn't the left necessarily who cared about it. It was the right. And Trump himself, I think, on the campaign trail then was talking about it with relation to Bill Clinton.
Yes.
And so it seemed to me that at that point, it really becomes part of the online right, or the what is now maybe the MAGA right. It becomes their baby then.
Yes.
As a story.
Yes. The reason it came up again, I mean, besides the fact that they could connect it to Trump, was one of the smartest lawyers in the country, Paul Cassell. He's very anti-crime, which I know sounds silly, but liberals and Democrats are very pro-crime, so it's not that unusual or that weird that somebody would be that. So he worked for Orrin Hatch when he was head of judiciary. He's had a lot to do with a lot of the federal laws on crime, and one of them that he was the mover and shaker on is this Crime Victims Act that gives the victims of crime rights, because criminals have all kinds of rights. One of the rights victims have is to be apprised of what's going on with a case as it moves forward, so that a DA can't just slip in. Not a DA, that would have to be, this is only federal, so that would have to be U.S. attorney, can't strike a deal with, their child's murderer or their rapist without telling the victim what's going on. Well, none of that happened with Jeffrey Epstein, and there were a lot of victims. So Paul Cassell and I forget the name of his partner, something Bradley, or maybe it was Bradley something, they bring civil suit on behalf of Virginia Giuffre, the one in the pictures with Prince Andrew.
Who sadly took her own life earlier this year.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I didn't follow up, but when it first broke, it seemed like it was just a car accident. Has it been determined that it was intentional?
Oh, was it a car? Maybe I.
No, I've heard people say.
Maybe I don't know the story.
I've heard people say that, and I was thinking, I don't know, a few days ago, I got to go look into that. Anyway, she has passed away fairly recently.
Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I think it was a car accident, not.
I've heard other people say she took her own life, so we got to look into that. Have your producer get back to us on behalf of Virginia, and also I think they just called them. Actually, they might have all been called Jane Doe. A, Jane Doe B, Jane Doe C.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have grounds to reopen that plea bargain because they were denied their rights as victims. It was a brilliant lawsuit. And in their filings, they now detailed what was done to them and mentioned a couple of the men involved. Virginia Giuffre mentioned Dershowitz. I think Prince Andrew. I think one of them brought up Clinton, or maybe that came out with the flight records. I'm not sure, but it sort of did become a partisan issue, except on both sides, because, interestingly enough, Jeffrey Epstein was never a member of Mar-a-Lago, but Ghislaine Maxwell was. So he would go to, that's why there's a picture of him at Mar-a-Lago with Trump and Melania. So he would go along with Ghislaine at some point. Oh, it was after groundskeeper complained to Donald Trump that Epstein had hit on his daughter, whom I think was working in the spa, handing out towels or something. And that's when Trump banned Epstein from ever showing up at Mar-a-Lago again, even though he wasn't even a member. Still, there was a picture of him with Jeffrey Epstein, and he did give that stupid quote to New York Magazine like 10 years earlier about... And just, I mean, just imagine, viewers, your father saying something like this about Jeffrey Epstein. It was something about, well, I hear he loves beautiful women as much as I do, but he likes them on the younger side. Oh, yeah, that's great. That's lovely. Anyway, he has that stupid quote. Yeah. There he has the picture with Epstein. So on MSNBC, it was all Donald Trump's friend, Donald Trump's friend, Donald Trump's friend. On Fox News, it was Clinton flew X number of times on the Lolita Express.
Right, okay.
And, I mean, who knows? I know nothing. I tend to think that neither Bill Clinton nor Donald Trump, I don't think they were having sex with 14, 15, 16-year-olds. Maybe Clinton with a girl in her 20s, which is adultery and technically a crime. So I think we should be able to see their pictures.
Why do you think that?
You're
just speculating.
Yeah, I think pederasty is not that common. I mean, Clinton's definitely a horn dog. He'd screw around with anything, put you in a skirt, he would hit on you. So why bother doing something that is just so shocks the conscience? Some of them definitely were. Oh, and by the way, Dershowitz completely denied it, and he ended up with some settlement in Virginia Giuffre. I don't know if he paid her money, but she said, I may have been mistaken. Who knows? I'm going to,
if you don't mind, zoom out a little bit. And I was wondering if you could give me a little bit of the story of the island, then how this comes about, how this, because I don't, again, know the story. Not maybe everyone listening knows the story as well as you do. We're talking about before 2005, obviously. You have these huge people going to the island and maybe having a fun weekend here and there, but it's a wide range of people that were there. From Bill Gates, I believe, was there, and academics, politicians, all sorts were going there. So how does the island come to Epstein's possession?
Well, that's a very important question. He bought it, which is why big question looming over all of this is, where did he get his money? And as for the people going to the island, I am fairly confident in saying not one was a Republican. And I would also say he did this trick. I don't know if anybody over here is sleazy enough to do this, but it's a famous trick where you're a nobody. You want to have dinner with powerful and important people. So say you call up Robert De Niro and say, hey, LeBron James wants to have dinner with you. Oh, that would be great. Yeah, love to meet him sometime. And then you call LeBron James and say, hey, Robert De Niro wants to have dinner with you.
Well, that's such a sleazy thing.
So that's what Epstein would do. So a lot of people technically on the list, he would collect phone numbers. He may have never called these people. So I do want to say that people in the Black Book, that doesn't mean they were involved in anything sleazy. But I will also say that a repeat visitor, I'd be a little suspicious of, because he gives off so many creepy vibes. And I mean, I do know men who went there, unsuspecting, thinking they're going to meet these Harvard scientists, and left pretty quickly because the whole... Jeffrey, for example, would be sitting at the head of the table with some, 16-year-old hot girl sitting on his lap. And just carrying on the conversation. Another one is so gross, I don't think I want to say it on a podcast.
I'm all ears.
It was announced that after the dinner, all the guests were invited to, either go up and use one of the rooms, retire to the library where Ghislaine would be demonstrating a sexual act. I don't think you could be totally innocent of knowing that this guy and his friends and associates are total dirtbags.
One theory that I heard from Peter Thiel, speaking, I think, on the Joe Rogan podcast, is that these high-status people, or people who wanted more status, got involved because they felt that they were willingly giving over compromat because they wanted the advantages one would get with the association. A bit like being part of a sort of mafia or I don't know, a gang of brothers. If you signal to the other people in the gang, you can trust me because you've got compromat on me.
Yes.
Do you think there's anything to that sort of? Yeah. Well, how so?
Exactly as you or Peter described it. A little bit of the mob ties. I mean, that's why the big people are. Everybody wants to know, why won't Trump release the pictures? And there are, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein had an extensive taping system so that he would have the compromat. Thank you, compromat. So that he would have it. He had them all over, and particularly in the bedroom. So, this Pam Bondi excuse of we don't have a file. Well, okay, we don't mean file. We want the pictures, and don't tell. And her big excuse was we can't release pictures. She said she had 10,000 images or videos.
Yes.
That's in her letter saying why she's not going to release it. Well, if you got 10,000, I want to see them. You can blur out the girls' faces. You can blur out their bodies. I want the pederast faces. Clear, vivid color. That's what we want. But I think Trump is worried about Epstein's donors and financial backers.
Huh. Okay, we'll come back to that and what's going on in Trump's mind around this thing. But let's dig a little bit into this Bondi thing, because you've written this piece at lambasting Bondi, as you've just done there. This is on your Substack, Unsafe. And you sort of ridicule her position and the contradictions within it. But I wonder if you might unpack this for listeners and me, Bondi's position and how it's changed since they came to power. So I've already mentioned that at the end of February, she gives all the files to everyone. But what's happened since then? And can you take me on the journey from February to now?
Yes, I've only been slightly paying attention because I just sort of feel like they're not coming out. Maybe when JD is president. But she made a big deal. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows this, but it was just so comical that she was giving the Epstein files to all these right-wing influencers, and she humiliated them. They come out of the White House. They haven't seen what's in it yet, and they're, proudly holding up the telephone book-sized notebook, and then it turns out it's just all retreads.
Yes.
Everybody already knows of this. Then she was doing maybe a teensy bit too much TV and a little less Attorney Generaling. And on Fox News, she said, yes, the files are coming out. I have the files sitting on my desk, and I'm just going through them now. And then the next thing you know, no, there are no files. What? Who said anything about files? So she says there are no files, and then her long letter explaining why she's not putting it out. What I found most appalling was how she gets on her high horse to say, we will not release child pornography. Oh, really? You're going to be the prude here. But then the next sentence is, and we find no evidence of a crime. Child pornography is a crime. Having sex with underage girls is a crime. You've just told us you have photos of a crime, child pornography, but no evidence of a crime.
Yeah. And she said, we've got to protect the victims. That's one of the motive. At one point, that was her excuse. Is like, victims of what? If there's not a crime.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, the idea that she hasn't heard of blurring, photographic blurring. I looked it up. It's been around for like more than a century, being able to blur a photograph. Everybody's used Google Maps, Google Images. They blur license plates. They've been doing it for almost a decade now. Don't tell it. And I mean, all these tabloids, when they get some pictures of naked people they don't want to show, they blur it. How can the Attorney General of the U.S. not know about photographic blurring?
So you think then that the reason why is that she's kind of looking to Trump as to what to do, and Trump doesn't want something about the files coming out. That's your theory. Okay, can you explain that to me then?
It's got to be Trump. This is something she couldn't be doing on her own. Otherwise, he could just call her up and say, release the files. I've promised it. You've promised it. The second in command at the FBI, Dan Bongino,
who forever has been saying, release the files. He's been one of the big, quote-unquote, conspiracy guys. And he said, no, I've seen it now. There's nothing in it. As has Cash Patel.
And then he kind of threatened to quit. Cash and Dan seem very, very upset about this. But, I mean, I'm on their side. I like them at the FBI, and I don't want them to quit. But I think, they've blinked out torture in their hostage videos. I think we all understand they are very unhappy about this. And I don't know. I think maybe either Trump or Bondi seem to have dropped the ball. Maybe he should have communicated this to her a little bit sooner before she goes on TV and says, I got the Epstein files on my desk. Maybe before she did that, he might have wanted to say, don't release them. Or who knows, maybe she said it on TV, and that's when the people who actually are in the videos called up Trump and said, don't dare release them.
The thing I'm trying to square then is that they say there's nothing, but as you have laid out, there's all this footage, and Pam Bondi herself is saying there's all this footage and we've got to protect the victims. So if they're saying there's nothing, and on the other hand, another part of the administration is saying, no, there's footage we've got to blur out, how could that possibly square? In what scenario would it be that all the footage is Epstein and there's not actually others involved? It's just Epstein doing terrible things.
That's hilarious that he's trying to get compromising material on himself. I don't think that's true.
Well, if he's a pedophile and he's a total pervert, he wants to film himself doing perverse things. I mean, the fact that he is so deranged that he would do the acts in the first place, it's not that much of a leap for him to be like, I want to film it as well. That's sort of part of his...
Fair point. I think some of the girls, I'm sure some of the girls have referred to the cameras all over and capturing them.
With other men?
Yes.
So some of the girls have said there were other men?
I am fairly certain that is true.
Fairly, but not 100%?
Only because I didn't look it up before coming on, but I believe I did look it up a few weeks ago. Because I've heard this theory that it's all just Epstein, and I don't think it makes any sense, but...
I guess I'm trying to dig at what's circumstantial and what we really know, and that's why I'm kind of chiseling here.
I recall looking it up. I forget which girl. I think... Okay, I'll admit this part is... I think there is a girl. I don't remember which one it was. At least one girl. But we'll leave it at that. Could be.
Okay.
But I will say it's... they did allow the lawyer, a girl police officer in charge of the warrant on searching Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, the one I went into. They're looking for the cache of safes and other evidence of what was going on. They find a gigantic safe. They have to bring in, explosives and an axe. They get it open. They find, a gazillion tapes. And then she said, oh my gosh, look at the time. We've got to go. She leaves. She doesn't take the tapes. She doesn't leave somebody there to guard the tapes. And an Epstein lawyer, they're all allowed to walk about the house. He comes in and removes the tapes. So the next day, she says, hey, what happened to the tapes? And, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to take them, and allegedly returns them all. I'm not really sure what the point of that would be if it were all Epstein.
Okay, so I've got to ask about Epstein's death.
Oh, yeah.
What's your analysis on that?
Well, at first, like everyone else, everything seeming to go wrong. The cameras are out. He was supposed to be not in solitary because he was suicidal. He's in solitary because of, some mishap. The guards were supposed to be walking the rounds repeatedly, and somehow they didn't do that. So at first, like everyone else, I was highly suspicious. And then I went through JFK airport security, and I remembered how utterly, completely incompetent the government is. No, this is actually like peak performance for the government. It's Rikers Island. Yeah, the guards were back shopping on Amazon. They were probably surfing pornography half the night. This is what was determined, and I believe they were prosecuted. And at least one, I'm pretty sure, went to prison. They must both have. And as for the cameras being out, I don't know if you remember, this was like 5 years ago, that crazy black guy shot up an entire subway car. Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely, yes.
Runs out. It took a couple days to find him because guess what was out? All of the cameras on the subway station.
Yeah.
There's your government at work. So I'm sorry, it's not unheard of that the government would be shockingly, unbelievably incompetent. And I mean, enough people have looked at it. I think there is reason for I don't find it implausible that Jeffrey Epstein would want to commit suicide. I mean, he's riding high in the hog. He has a private island, a mansion in Palm Beach, the largest residence in New York City, the place in New Mexico, a place in London, a place in Israel. He's living high on the hog. He can meet with anyone. He has the fabulous plane, apparently likes to have sex with young girls. He can do that whenever he wants to. And now it's over. It's done. No one wants anything to do with him. And there's also the possibility that he doesn't want to be killed, but his life is over. I wouldn't be surprised that he wanted to commit suicide. His former cellmate said that and he had attempted suicide once before. I mean, that's what was suspicious about why did they leave him in solitary? Government incompetence. His former cellmate said that he was definitely going to commit suicide. He wasn't at all surprised. So that conspiracy theory, though promising at first, I think is not true.
And he didn't have enough compromat, presumably, to save, well, he thought he didn't have enough compromat, as per what we were saying earlier.
Well, now it was a new sheriff. Now it's prosecutors and the girls and private attorneys.
Right.
You can't escape that news.
Right, okay. So let's come back to Trump, his motivation. You have suggested there a moment ago that it's his funders and that he's wanting to protect someone. I guess that's kind of what was implicit in what you were saying. Would you mind expanding on that?
Yes. People in the U.S. can't see this, right? Let me just say, I think everyone agrees that no one was privately funding Jeffrey Epstein. It looks like it is a foreign operation. There was enough money involved. And the two main suspects have been Saudi Arabia and Israel. Okay,
so we hear a lot about Israel. Paint me a picture about the Saudis then.
Just that they're big and powerful, and there's a lot of turmoil in the Middle East. I don't know if you've heard about that. Mm-hmm. It's been going on for some time. Mm-hmm. Sorry, this is completely off topic. I remember a few years ago, one of my talking partners was Jewish, never, ever, ever talked about Israel, didn't care about. We talked like for an hour a day and it was all about politics. And after like 15 years of doing this, just out of the blue, he said to me, "Hey, Ann, aren't you glad I never talked to you about Israel? Because all that time, we could have been talking I could do an hour a day. Nothing's changed.
Right.
Exactly as it always was. So it's an area of turmoil. Obviously, the U.S. has a big thumbprint on everything that's going on. So being able to influence politics, influence decisions, influence the State Department, influence members of Congress, influence the president, influence powerful movers and shakers. All of that is going to be valuable to someone in such a perilous area of the globe.
Okay, so just so I've understood this, either Israel or Saudi. This is the Saudis.
It's a general assumption.
Are in Trump's ear saying, we don't want this coming out. And you've come to that because it's the only so there's a jump we've had in this conversation.
Right.
Which is that we've gone from, I guess, Epstein being some sort of lone actor.
Right.
There's people behind him too. There's a state acting behind him. So would you mind taking me on that little leap?
Yes. I mean, for a while I thought instantly that was everybody's question. Where was he getting his money? He wasn't investing money. He has these rich people just handing him over the mansion. So it sort of seemed at first, among the theories that were run through, that actually he was in a gay relationship with one of these very, very wealthy men, that he was, my idea was he was like the concierge of the sex club. So everybody would pay in and he'd arrange for the nice places where they could come and have sex with 14-year-old girls. And older. I mean, some, the dignified men were only having adulterous sex with 20-year-olds as some gross, disgusting 60-year-old man. But there were 14 to 17-year-old girls that some of them were having sex with. So he was like the concierge of this club. But there isn't enough private money that he was bribing them into giving him more money. But they're rich enough that somebody would have offed him. None of these theories made sense. And there's so much money involved to buy an island, to buy all these properties, to be flying this private plane and flying it for so many other people, for his assistants. I know there are a lot of rich people, but this is an awful lot of money. A single individual can't explain it. It's got to be a state sponsor, and a state sponsor, it makes more sense. They would have some interest in having control over what is, and I don't particularly like this, but the world's policeman, the most interventionist and powerful country in the world.
Right, because that's the other part. Just to tie this from the earlier part of the conversation, is the revelation in Florida. No, we can't do anything because he's intelligence asset. Because what are the possibilities that he's an American intelligence asset? Is that ridiculous?
I think so. I think it was someone who was friendly to the country, either Israel or Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is utter speculation, talk about not knowing facts. That's why I would like to know the name of the person at the State Department who called Alex Acosta. I think it was someone who was friendly to whichever country it was. And by the way, maybe it's neither of those two. Those seem the most likely suspects, who just called and made it up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not, if you told me it was a state actor, I don't think I'd be surprised. But I think we both admit there's a leap there, that we're speculating, how has this guy got so much money? I mean, would it be ridiculous to think he has played this game of compromat and bribery to such a level that he's just, it's like in the history of paying attention to this kind of stuff, no one's achieved this kind of stuff. He's got such terrible compromise. He's managed to get unbelievable amount of money and riches and favors out of people. Is that a ridiculous line of thought? The
reason I think it is that you would need so many. I mean, how many billionaires are there in the U.S.? And what are they giving them each? $100 million? I don't think that adds up to enough. But also, if they have that much money, they're not going to pay a bribery. They're going to pay a hitman. One of them will. I mean, that's kind of a dangerous game. You have your You're threatening the lives, livelihoods, and reputations of massively wealthy individuals. It's a lot cheaper to knock Jeffrey Epstein off than to keep writing checks.
Do we have a sense of how much money he was worth? Hundreds of millions.
It must have been. I have no idea, but I'm very bad with numbers.
And then if we take the line that it's a state actor, for a state to do that, they must, if they actively know that he's doing this kind of paedophilia, because it might be a sort of another situation where they don't know that he's getting involved in paedophilia or he has that sort of behavior. It's kind of an asset gone wrong. This kind of, but for them to actively know that he's deliberately doing these kind of sex traps with young women, it's so. It takes quite a lot to sort of imagine a state that would do that. Do you think that that's what it's kind of come from a state like, no, we should try and entrap these powerful people in paedophile rings?
Whether that was part of the original directive, they'd have to know about it. I mean, you couldn't not know.
Well, they certainly know after 2005 and 6, yeah.
But
that
investing that kind of money, you got to be paying a little bit of attention and notice the 14-year-old girls who are late because of soccer practice. You'd have to know. And I think among the things they did find in his mansion, there was a Saudi passport for him, and I think some other passports.
Saudi, Israeli, Austrian, I think.
There was another one, yeah.
And so there were various states. It's kind of, we're vague there, but you seem to be not going down that rabbit hole with me. Okay, well, I'll read your nonverbal cues.
That is speculation.
Can we talk about Ghislaine Maxwell then, because she is she's been subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee, and she's due on August 11th to testify. This has come up, I believe, if I've understood this correctly, because of the new pressure on the Trump administration. There's a new interest all over again because of this client list. Can you break down, and we've obviously touched on Ghislaine a little bit already, but why is this moment significant? Could this change things? How have we got here? I don't understand. Can you explain it to me?
I'm so glad you asked me that. It means... It's utter BS being thrown to the MAGA base who, I mean, I'm sort of embarrassed I'm a lawyer, but boy, these people aren't lawyers. There's no possible way she has anything she could give. If she had something she could give, I mean, for one thing, the Trump administration isn't going to pardon her. What does immunity mean now? She's already been convicted. You ask for immunity before the trial. So Trump has nothing to offer her. Back when she was tried and found guilty, that's when you offer the information to avoid getting 20 years in prison. So there's no possible way they're getting anything out of her. And Trump is doing this to act like, oh no, I want to get to the bottom of this, and fooling the idiots.
Okay. So this is Trump's red meat. Okay, I understand. So he's behind it.
And probably Republicans in Congress, because the Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, saying he's holding up all business to prevent a bill or resolution going through calling on the release of the Epstein files.
He's preventing it.
Yeah, preventing it. So he's taking Trump's side. Preventing because some Republicans in Congress wanted to. I don't know exactly what they were going to do. I was probably in London enjoying myself when it happened. But, I think they want to subpoena all of the files, and they're allowed to do that. They have oversight. They have oversight of the Department of Justice. It would be perfectly legit for them to subpoena it. I don't know. I don't know why they'd need the full vote of Congress, but Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, stepped in to say, I will not allow this to happen.
And she's just said that, or it's reported that she said that she's told the DOJ that she will hand over 100 names, potential Epstein associates, I think this is if she gets some sort of immunity as kind of some sort of deal. So again, we're kind of, these associates of these people who have known Epstein, and these people who there's compromat on. It's kind of hard to sort of make sense of that.
The only way she would do that, like I say, and Trump, well, I guess you shouldn't really put your last dollar on betting that Trump will do what he says, but he has absolutely said he's not going to issue her a pardon, and I have to say that would be kind of a shocker if he did. But that's the only thing he has to offer her. Immunity means nothing now. She's been convicted. Immunity means that you can testify, you can turn things over. You're not going to be prosecuted for certain crimes. Sometimes it's limited immunity for crimes you've already committed. Well, she's committed the crime. She's been tried. She's been convicted. Immunity doesn't help her now.
What are you expecting to happen in this committee? What should we be looking out for?
Well, if Mike Johnson would let it go forward, I think they could get their hands on the videos and the pictures. I mean, you can't say that the face of a 60-year-old man in the process of having sex with a 14-year-old girl, that's classified. You can't. There's no way that could possibly make sense. So, and that's what I keep saying. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Right. Well.
And that's why I mentioned, even though, I mean, I take adultery seriously, but I don't mean to sound like a little priss. Well, that's a crime. But my point is that is a crime. And it's one thing to say you're not going to violate someone's privacy if they haven't committed a crime, but that would be an excuse for the faces of the gross 60-year-old men having sex with, even a 25-year-old and not just a 16 or 17-year-old.
Now, I know that you've made the case that you think he did commit suicide, Epstein, but what I've read into those who think he killed himself is that Ghislaine Maxwell actually is the one with the power, and her being alive is sort of evidence of the fact that. Now, I appreciate this hasn't been in your line of thinking, but I just wanted to get your sense of Ghislaine Maxwell. Was she someone working for another actor? Was she just devoted to Jeffrey? What's going on exactly with Ghislaine Maxwell and her relationship with Epstein?
Well, I don't know, but the two things I do notice about her is she is a sexual pervert. That's point one.
You've established that, yeah.
Point two, and I've noticed this, I finally tweeted it out this week because, I don't know, it's just so embarrassing. In all the pictures of them together, and there are a lot of pictures of them together, and I defy anyone to look at a picture of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and tell me I'm wrong. It is so obvious that she is completely smitten with him, completely into him, and he couldn't care less about her. So, smitten, sexual pervert. Those are my big takeaways.
Is this a mess that Trump...
Wait, I'm sorry. Can I go back?
Yes.
She also was molesting the girls. Okay, go.
Sorry. Is there any way out of this mess for Trump?
Yeah, release it.
Is the only thing. But... he seems unbelievably reluctant to do anything.
Yes, I don't think he's going to. I don't know if this is a way out. But one good thing about him refusing to release the files, and things have been, I mean, he has been doing a lot of great stuff this term. It's like every day is Christmas. But it seems like since he has stubbornly, jackassedly refused to release, I'll call them for short, the files. You know what I mean? The pictures, the men's faces, the gross guys. It seems like the good things have been coming a little bit faster. So it's like he's trying to, okay, fine, keep throwing us bones.
You're happy about
take
that.
it until JD becomes president and he releases it.
Well, what I found sort of curious is that he's actually got some big wins in this period, wins that the MAGA base would normally be incredibly happy with. Now, you obviously are happy about them, and maybe we can explore some of those wins, but the trade deals he just secured with the EU, and as well as Japan, South Korea, and other places. I mean, the EU one is just like a mega win for this. He basically humiliated the EU. We've just had reports that the stock indexes doing very well, that there's been an increase in oil and gas production. It's just the economic situation is pretty. You should be pretty proud about it. And maybe you can expand on what other wins he
Well, to
has.
expand on that one just briefly, what's so great about this is I was all in favor of his tariff policy. And since he's talked about it, and certainly since he has been president, the news has been chock-a-block, wall to wall. He's going to, especially from the Wall Street Journal, and all of the financial reports, we're headed for the next depression. The stock market's going to collapse. This is a disaster for our country. Look at it. New York Times is for every day they were running another article on how front page, how tariffs were going to destroy this industry, that industry. You won't be able to get coffee anymore. I mean, the gloom and doom around this. So now he's putting them all into effect. And economy soaring. and hopefully it will help middle and working class Americans.
Right. So despite this, the MAGA core seem obsessed to me with this Epstein story. Now, or is that just me misreading the media? I mean, I haven't been in America for a couple of months. Is it actually a different story? Is this Epstein obsession really just an online phenomenon?
I think people are pretty obsessed.
Yeah, so I'm right to think that.
I mean, I'm as you can tell from the suicide thing and the FBI with January 6th, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. And I and my friends want the files. We really want. I say the files, meaning the stuff that will show us who the pederasts were.
Now, and I'm going to invite our audience over to the Substack for the last part of our conversation. But before we do that, with regards to Epstein, is there anything that you think we need to tie the bow to tie it all together? Any important aspects about it that we missed?
I think we really got into the weeds on that one, probably way more than your viewers care about. But you and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, I certainly did, and I'm sure our listeners will. Before then, we leave you, where can listeners, I've mentioned already your Unsafe Substack. You've got 13 books that they can dig into. Is there anything else you'd like to bring their attention to?
The books are fantastic. I research and write them myself. Very few books are written that way. One of the things I love about London, wow, you guys have a lot of bookstores. I'm really impressed. A lot of readers here. So right now I'd recommend, In Trump We Trust, which I wrote in 2016, and then he didn't do any of it. And I was mad at him. But he's doing it now. So it's back in style. And Adios America about immigration. And that changed the world because Trump asked for a copy of it. I kept sending it to Republicans running for president, like Romney and Christie, and I'd carefully post note the chapters I wanted them to read. I'd meet them in person. I would talk to them and email and beg them to take up the immigration issue. Trump just saw me on a podcast, not a podcast, television show with Jorge Ramos, Telemundo, right before the book came out. And I only did it because I knew I was going to be banned every place. It was loads of fun, but it's a good description of the entire book. And his office contacts me and wants a copy of Adios America overnighted to him. And the next thing I know, he's talking about Mexican rapists. So that's a really, I think, important book, but it's also a lot of fun.
Great. Ann Coulter, a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you. The FBI or police is pushing people to do a crime they weren't already going to do. That's entrapment.
There's some of I've forgotten the names of the characters. There's one of the characters.
Ray
Ray
Epps.
Epps. I saw the footage of that guy. He's very much egging them on. And then the way he's escorted out of the crowd after, it's extremely suspicious.
He has a long record of being a...
Oh, does he? What do you make of him and his affiliation with the Proud Boys?
I mean, at Berkeley, there were 5,000 Antifa outside trying to put me in the hospital.
Really?
And why am I still alive? And why did I not go to the hospital? Well, in large part because of the...
Thank you for watching the Winston Marshall Show with Ann Coulter. If you head over to winstonmarshall.co.uk now, our Substack, you'll be able to enjoy not only ad-free viewing and exclusive content, but that extended conversation between me and Ann, where we took a little bit of a deep dive into Jan 6th, as well as her experiences up close and personal with both Antifa and the Proud Boys. Remember also, if you want to support this show, all you have to do is press subscribe. If you do that, I can have more phenomenal guests like Anne exploring the issues you want to hear about that the mainstream media won't touch. But until next time, be well.